Hello learners, I am Dr. Subodh Kesharwani, working with Indira Gandhi National Open University in the School of Management Studies. The topic which I am going to talk today is comparative scaling techniques. Prior to going into the depth of this topic, I just want to throw a light that this is part of our course called Research Methodology and Statistical Analysis, which is a second year MCOM course, and we are here with somewhere around 13 to 14 lectures, and we have already covered the varieties of topic which we will recapitulate in the coming years. Prior to going into the depth of this topic, I just want to throw a light that what exactly this comparative analysis is. If we talk about the data, I think data is something which consists of quantitative variables like price, income, sales, and qualitative variables like knowledge, performance, and character. The qualitative information must be converted into numerical form for other analysis. This is possible through measurement and scaling techniques. So when we are going to talk about this comparative scaling techniques, I think this is part of the scaling techniques, and if you go more into the depth of the scaling techniques, in our preceding session which was talking about the measurement, there we have talked about how important the scaling technique is, because we have covered the portion called measurement, and we have covered inside it ordinal, ratio, and some other parts. But here we are going to talk about the scaling techniques, which is going to be bifurcated into comparative scaling techniques and non-comparative scaling techniques. So this is if we talk about the scaling techniques, this is talking about the placing respondents in continuation of gradual change in the pre-assigned values, symbols or numbers based on the features of particular object as per the defined rules. So what we have observed that that in our preceding sessions, if you go into the backdrop, you will find out we have a dedicated sessions which was talking on the measurement. So measurement is the process of observing and recording the observations that are collected as part of research. The recording of the observation may be in terms of numbers or other symbols to characteristics of objects according to certain prescribed rules. The respondents' characteristics are feeling, attitude, opinions, etc. The most important aspect of measurement is the specification of rules for assigning numbers to characteristics. The rules for assigning numbers should be standardized and applied uniformly. So uniformity and this how you are going to make a standard, that is very important, and this must not change over time or object. So this is what exactly the measurement is. So in our preceding sessions, if you see, we have elaborately talked about when we were discussing about measurement and scaling techniques, we have exclusively talked about the measurement. But since here we are talking about the scaling technique, so scaling is the assignment of objects to numbers or semantic according to a rule. In scaling, the objects are text statements, usually statements of attitude, opinion, or feeling. So in this measurement, we have already covered the primary scales, which was bifurcated into 4 important gradients: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Nominal is lowest level of measurement, we have already talked about in our preceding sessions, and ratio scale is highest level of measurement. If you see this particular circle, I think this circle is quite explanatory in nature, that if you talk about the ratio scale, which is quite elaborative, and it's considered as a big circle, whereas interval, ordinal, nominal, which are part of that circle, and it's gradually going down and down. So anyway, prior to going into the depth of this scaling techniques, and that too revolves around the comparative scaling techniques, I just want to throw a light what exactly we have covered in our preceding sessions. So this particular course is Research Methodology and Statistical Analysis, and we are in this first block, that is research and data collections, and there are some more 4 blocks, that is processing and preservation of data, relational and trend analysis, probability and hypothesis testing, interpretation and reporting. So as far as this particular block is concerned, the first block is concerned, which is talking about introduction to business research, research plan, collection of data, sampling, measurement, and scaling techniques. So we are here in this unit 5, that is chapter 5, which is more talking about the measurement, which is talking about the scaling techniques. On the other hand, it is talking about the types of scaling techniques like comparative scaling techniques and non-comparative scaling techniques. So now again we are going to talk about the scaling techniques, and this scaling techniques is bifurcated into comparative scales and non-comparative scales. So as far as non-comparative scale is concerned, this we are going to cover in our next session, whereas comparative scale is going to covered by us in this present session. So this comparative scales is more talking about the paired comparison, constant sum, rank order and Q sort. So we are here with this comparative scaling, and if we go more into the depth of this comparative scale is a measurement which is based on the comparison between objects, whereas non-comparative scaling is a measurement is based on individual assessment of each of the objects. So what we observe that this scaling technique is purely bifurcated into comparative and non-comparative, and comparative scales involves the direct comparison of stimulus objects, whereas comparative scale data must be interpreted in relative manners and have only ordinal or rank order properties. I think in our previous discussion we have seen that how this rank, ordinal, nominal and other the scales are taken care, and how this comparative scales revolves around the ordinal or rank order properties. So on this non-comparative scale is an object which is scaled independently and which we are going to take care in our next session. So now we are going to talking about the comparative scale techniques. A comparative scale is an ordinal or rank order scale that can also be referred to as a non-metric scale. So this is purely a non-metric scale, and respondents evaluate two or more objects at one time, and objects are directly compared with one another as part of the measuring process. So what we are going to do when we are floating our questionnaires to the respondents, and respondents are the one who reciprocates with their answers. So these respondents are able to evaluate on two or more objects at one time, and objects are directly compared with one another as part of the measuring process. So this is analysis as far as the advantages of comparative scale is concerned. It more talks about the small difference between stimulus objects can be detected, and same known reference points for all respondents. So this we have seen easily understood and can be applied, involve fewer theoretical assumptions, tend to reduce halo or carryover effects from one judgment to another judgment. These are some of the advantages of comparative scales. And if you go more into depth of these types of comparative scale techniques, I think this is again bifurcated into four types, which are quite general in nature and quite generic in nature, and they are used with the change of time. So paired comparison is there, then rank order is there, then constant sum is there, then Q sort is there. If you are more talking about this paired comparison, it is nothing but compare between the two objects. When you take two objects and you are comparing, you are just pairing it. We will take some good examples which are going to distinguish or which are going to explain elaborately about this pair comparison. Then you have rank order. So rank order is rank more than two objects. How you are going to give ratings to that, how you are going to give ranks to that, first rank, second rank, third rank or so on. So constant sum is nothing but how you are going to allocate a given number of points, that is example given 100 to several objects. So this is constant sum where the given number of points is 100. So now Q sort is systematic study of participant viewpoints. So what we have observed that these are the four important comparative scale techniques, and if we go elaborately more into the depth of this comparative scale techniques, I think the first one is the paired comparison. So paired comparison is an activity for evaluating a small range of options by comparing them against each other. So this is something which is considered to be a small range. It is useful and easy technique for rating and ranking, which I have already talked about. Alternatives where the evaluation criteria and are subject by nature. So what we have observed that respondent is presented with two objects at a time. So then asked to select one object in the pair according to some criteria. We will take some examples, some real life scenarios which can definitely defend this particular comparison, and data obtained are ordinal in nature. So already we have talked about ordinal, ratio, and so these considered to be the ordinal in nature and arranged or ranked in order of magnitude. So you are going to give them the ranking in the order of the magnitude. Easy to do if only a few items are compared. If numbers of comparisons too large, respondents may become fatigued and no longer careful. Discrimination among them can be governed. So what I mean to say is that when you are going to talk about the paired comparison, I think this paired comparison can be very well explained if you see this particular image. I think we have got the four persons A, B, C and D, and you see how A is linked with B, how A is linked with C, how A can be paired with D, or B can be paired with C, or B can be paired with D. So a lot of permutation combination is there, which can give you the glimpse about that how the paired comparison can be done. So this is a comparative scale technique in which a respondent is presented with two objects at a time and asked to select one object according to some criteria. So this is what exactly the paired comparison scale is, and the data obtained are ordinal in nature. I have already talked about. There are four types of cold drink. This is one of the example which we are going to take here, which can definitely give a glimpse about what exactly the paired comparison scale is. And we have taken you some brands or the product of that particular brands like Coke, Pepsi, and Sprite and Limca. The respondents can prefer Pepsi to Coke or Coke to Sprite. We have seen that how the brand Coke, Pepsi and Sprites are there. So Coke, if Coke Pepsi pairing is there, then Coke is a brand and Pepsi is one of the pairing link. So what we have seen that from the image that it is having one point over there. So like there is no relation between Pepsi with any of the other thing. So Pepsi, then Sprite and Pepsi is there. Then now the number of times preferred is what? That 2 Cokes, 3 Pepsi and 1 Sprite. So this is the way by which we can pair, and if you talk about the comparative scale technique vis-a-vis the paired comparison scale, a respondent is presented with two objects and asked to select one according to some criteria. The data obtained are ordinal in nature. Paired comparison scale is the most widely used comparative scaling techniques with n brand. That is n-1 divided by 2. This is considered to be the paired comparison are required. Under the assumption of transitivity, it is possible to convert paired comparison data to a rank order. So now there are certain stumbling blocks. When you are going for the paired order, I think it's really cumbersome when the data is quite large. So in that case, you are going to apply the rank order. So rank order scale gives the respondent a set of items and ask them to put the items in some form of order. So there are certain orders in which this form is going to be put, and the measure of order can conclude as a preference, importance like liking, effectiveness and so on. And the order is often a simple ordinal structure. A is higher than B. So 1, 2 and 3 could be the rank order which is going to be done. And if you see this particular image, I think we have seen that the rank is given on the basis of the choices. Like the first choice is family and friends distribution. So it is coming on the basis of the score, and score is 7. So which is highest, and the lowest is 3. So what we have observed that when anybody get a choice to give priority, as for the order is concerned, the family and friends all are given the first rank because due to the 7th score. Health is given a second rank due to 6th score. Purpose is given the 3rd rank due to the 3rd score, and freedom is given again the 3rd. So money is given nothing. So that's why it is at the 5th rank. So what I mean to say that rank order is there are varieties of examples by which we can quote that this is considered to be the rank order. So Six Flags, Magic Mountain, these are the amusement parks where people used to visit, and on the weighted score the ranking need to be done. 29% got a first rank, 20% Hershey Park got second rank, Walt Disney World got 17%, so 3rd rank, and like that the Kings Island 9%. So what I mean to say, based on the total respondents, and on the basis of that the rank order need to be done. So this is the second example as far as the comparative scale technique is concerned. Now 1.3 is the constant sum scale, which is the third way of types of scaling techniques, type of comparative scaling techniques rather we can say. A constant sum scale is a type of question used in market research. This is exclusively used in market research, survey in which respondents are required to divide a specific number of points or percents as part of a total sum. So the allocation of points are divided to detail the variance and weight of each category. So this is basically a constant sum scale where it is massively used in the market research survey, and the very good example which I have taken over here, that there are 4 marketing professors as well as 3 aspects that students typically find important. For each aspect, one has to assign number that reflects how well you believe each instructor performs on the aspects. Higher number represent higher scores. The total of the instructor scores on an aspect should equal 100. So what we have observed that instructor 1 is availability is 30%, fairness 35, easy test is 25. So this comes to 65 plus 70 to 90. So instructor 1 have scored the 90 marks out of 100. So this is considered to be the constant sum scale where 3 parameters are taken care: availability, fairness and easy test, and instructor is going to be monitored or evaluated on the basis of these 3 parameters. So instructor 2 again is based on availability, fairness and easy test. Instructor 3 have scored 25, 25, 25, which comes to 75. Instructor 4 is getting somewhere around 55. So some out of this sum total is 100. So instructor 1 have scored somewhere around, which I was talking about, 90, and others have got less. So this constant sum score is somewhat moving in that direction. So now divide 100 points among the following characteristics and you will find out that relative importance of characteristics is coming up. So style is 50, ride is 10, economical is 35, warranty is 5, friendly dealer is 100. So this is the model. So out of 100 somebody have scored this. So what I mean to say, the constant sum scale helps researchers to discover properties. The participants allocates point to more than one attribute or property indicant such that they total a constant sum, usually 100 or 10. So participant precision and patience suffer when too many stimuli are proportioned and summed. So there must be certain model where where we have to avoid the too many stimuli there, because if the parameters are 3, 4 or 5, I think it's better to judge, otherwise the big issue will come up. So a participant ability to add may also be taxed. An advantage is compatibility with present and the fact that alternatives that are perceived to be equal can be scored. So the scale produces interval data. I think this is one of the best way of judging it. And now the fourth one is the Q-sort scaling. So if you talk about the Q-sort scaling, this is another technique as for scaling technique which revolves around the comparative scale techniques, and based on the respondents and the Q-sort technique and Q-factor analysis. So respondents are asked to sort the presented objects into piles based on similarity according to a specified criterion such as preference, attitude, perception, etc. So respondents are correlated instead of items. The focus here is mainly to know the human subjectivity related to the concept under consideration for study. So Q-sort technique is mainly used for small groups or individuals. Q-factor analysis reduces many individual viewpoints of the subjects to a few factors which claim to represent shared ways of thinking. So what we have observed that as far as the comparison between the other scaling techniques, so this Q-sort methodology works and follow certain steps like definition of the concourse, development of the Q sample, selection of the P set, Q sorting, analysis and interpretation. And what we observe that when you talk about the Q sort scaling techniques, it is comparative scaling technique. That is very true, because it is one of the fourth way of the scaling techniques which revolves around the comparative scaling techniques. And Q sorting is the technical means whereby data are obtained for factoring and is the qualitative data collection techniques in Q methodology. So Q sorting requires the participants to sort statements about a topic along a specific dimension such as how relevant, how interesting or how pleasing the statements are, generally in the presence of the researcher. So Q techniques uses rank order procedure for piles or group of the objects. So now what we have observed that if you go and see this, the image of how this Q sort scaling can be governed or it looks like, I think we have left is the most disagreement and right is the most agreement. So what we have seen that if somebody had scored +6, I think he most agreed, so he had given the weightage to this particular thing. So on the other hand, if you are most disagreed, you can 6. So from 0 to -6 and from 0 to +6. So most agreement is 0 to +6 and most disagreement 0 to -6. So this is all about this comparative scale technique, and we have elaborately talked about the comparative scaling techniques, and we know that how important the measurement and how important the scaling technique is. When we are going to talk about the measurement, we see that measurement is the way of doing the things. It's provide like you can measure in terms in certain in kilometers or in inches or in, but there are certain techniques, there are certain scaling techniques which can navigate the researchers to scale the things, because the data we have already talked about, and we have started our discussion with the data. We know that data is quite gigantic right now, and if data size is quite gigantic, what will happen that you are not in a position to apply the certain tools. So the scaling techniques is up to some extent narrow down the things and provide you a roof, provide you a platform to get the best out of that. So this is the way by which the things are going to be done. And comparative scaling technique revolves around this particular aspects, whereas non-comparative scale technique is there. It is which we are going to cover in our next session, and we will discuss about this non-comparative scale technique is a more elaborative manner. And if you talk about the non-comparative scaling technique, respondents evaluate only one object at a time, whereas we have seen that in comparative scaling techniques, two objects are going to be evaluated at one step. And for this reason, mundanic scale is there. Non-comparative technique consists of continuous and itemized details rating scales. So anyway, I think we have talked a lot about this particular session as far as the scaling technique is concerned, which starts with the comparative scaling techniques and then non-comparative scaling techniques, and further it is going to be bifurcated into some more heads in our next sessions, which purely revolves around the non-comparative sessions. We will talk more about that. I hope the learner will enjoy with this terminology, which is quite thought provoking as far as the research is concerned, as far as the sampling is concerned, as far as extracting the information from the respondent is concerned, because the intention behind the sampling is to get the best out of that, and no need to go into the depth of the population or collect the population in a holistic manner, but to get the small portion of that, and on the basis of this small portion, on the basis of this small results, how we are going to get best out of that. This is the beauty of the sampling. And when you are going more into depth of the sampling, you will find out that this measurement scaling technique is very important, because the whole things the whole research is become materialistic only when researcher or the respondent used to reciprocates. If respondents used to reciprocate, and how you are going to tackle those respondents' view, I think that is where the measurement scaling technique is very important. Thank you very much. We will have some more thought-provoking sessions which definitely talk about what exactly this statistical analysis is and the research is. Thank you very much.